Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Hoops with Noops. Of course, I am Alex Noops Christensen. As always, you can find me on Twitter _Noops, and you can find this preview in written form Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, thanks to the folks at FTN. And we do a video version Monday and Friday. I know we missed last week, but we're back on track. I'll be here Monday and Friday going forward. Again, maybe another break or two down the road, but love being here, love getting to actually talk to you guys. Well, you can hear me, at some point. If you're interested, put some comments down below. We've always been curious about maybe doing this live. If you would like to be here while I'm kind of rolling this stuff out, it'd be a good way to kind of get some more process, a little more action with you guys. Because again, I'm here to help. I really appreciate all the support I get. Would really love a comment. Let us know if there's anything we could be doing better or anything else you might want to know. I'm happy to come in, and I always check those comments after the show. Happy to get back to you. But as always, thanks to the folks at FTN. Make sure that you sign up for all the great stuff there. You can see a promo code there down at the bottom. Nice discount there. And again, tons of great tools, data, and a lot more content. I'm sure you're already subscribed to this channel. If you're not, make sure you do. Lots of free content always rolling out. So again, be sure to follow the account at FTN Fantasy. Everything will be running through there going forward. But again, make sure you sign up. A lot of great tools, a ton of great stuff. You get access to the Discord where there's some really good conversations and extra bets that you don't get here in Hoops with Noops. A lot of prop plays come through there, things like that. And you also get these numbers as early as possible. And there's one game today where, thanks to a little bit of injury news that's happening as I'm talking to you, the folks in the FTN Bet Discord got a little better number, but don't worry, it's still a bet we want to make. As always, let's get started. Talk a little basketball here. Happy Monday. It's the beginning of a week. I will say I did watch some of that football this week, and I bring that up because simply anybody who happens to see this that might be a Buffalo Bills fan, good God, I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. Not to rip off Good Will Hunting, but maybe pull it up and watch it because it's really not your fault. It's just, what a comedy of errors. I'm so sorry. That had to be brutal, but don't worry. I was still watching NBA basketball, had it up on my iPod down there below while I was watching some pretty great games. And luckily, we have no distractions, no football for another week. I know there's this college basketball thing. I'm not really into that. And something called hockey. There are men and they're on ice and they skate around. I'm not really sure. But it's a great night of NBA basketball. There are 8 games. And what's especially interesting tonight is 6 of those 8 games are interconference matchups. You have an Eastern Conference team playing a Western Conference team or vice versa. As someone from Philadelphia, I have an Eastern Conference bias, so I always put them first. These games can be interesting because every win is important in the NBA and matters, but these ones do matter a little bit less. When you take a look at the tie-breaking process for playoff seeding, it really has to do with head-to-heads, division opponents, conference opponents, and then maybe you get to some other things. It's really not involved. Your out-of-conference record really isn't a big part of the tiebreaker process. And it's also not an opportunity to, play a team you're going to see in the postseason. In fact, the only non-conference opponent you'll face in the postseason is in the NBA Finals if you make it that far. So these games are often spots where if teams have built up a little fatigue, they're in bad schedule spots, you'll see guys rest. There's also a bit of what we call a look ahead pattern where teams maybe have a conference opponent in their next game and are not as focused playing an out of conference game. So a lot of those angles to consider, and we'll keep those in mind as we go through. Again, 8 games tonight. I've got bets in 2 of them, and I'll talk about the rest of them and not for Noops, as I always do. Let's get started, though. The Boston Celtics at the Dallas Mavericks, and this number is on the move. It's 3 as I just started putting things together for the show here. The total at 239. But Kristaps Porzingis was just announced to be out tonight. So that number is on the move. It looks like we're at Mavericks at about +2.5, +2, depending on where you look. I put +3.5 in the chat earlier. There is still a +3 out there. Hopefully you can grab that. But if you're watching this and things have changed a little bit, really Mavericks +2 or better. Again, with Kristaps Porzingis looking like he's out tonight, I think this is a great spot for Dallas. Boston, 3-4 back to back. They're in the middle of a road trip. As I mentioned, the look ahead spot is always key. They've got a game in Miami on Thursday. Now, that is 2 days before then, so maybe not the biggest look ahead spot, but they've built up some fatigue. This is a tough schedule spot. Drew Holiday is questionable, and as I mentioned again, it looks like they're going to rest Kristaps Porzingis tonight. I'm just not expecting their best effort. Whereas the Mavericks have had 4 days off to rest and prepare for this game. This is a big spot for them. They want to really put forth their best effort and show the league that they are contenders and they can beat a team in the Celtics that is the highest rated team in the market. In fact, the highest rated team by sportsbooks since Kevin Durant played for the Warriors. It's incredible how highly they rated the Celtics are. And when healthy and when in a good spot, they are the best team in the NBA by probably some margin, especially during the regular season. But that's not the case tonight. The matchup especially tough. As many good defenders as Boston has, again, Holiday questionable. That's a big defensive piece. And when you go against Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, you need all the defenders you can get. Horford will start tonight. He's a clever player, but again, a little bit old and even a little bit undersized to protect the rim against guys, again, in Doncic and Irving that are great ball handlers, great scorers, and have Derek Lively Jr. I think Lively is the third most important piece on Dallas because what he does in the pick and roll game really opens up the offense. And I just think this is a great spot for Dallas and a really bad spot for Boston. So gave out 3.5 earlier in the FTN Bets Discord. There is still a 3 right now, but hopefully you're listening to this instead of just clicking through. If you are, you'll know that really anything, +2 or better for Dallas looks good. And if there's another star that's out, honestly, even Dallas -1, -2, something like that. If we see one of, the Jays, Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum rested tonight. But again, no Porzingis, +2 for Dallas looks like a great bet. +3 is even better. So we'll go ahead and take that and jump into our next game that I like here. The Chicago Bulls visit the Phoenix Suns. A really interesting game here where Phoenix, a very highly rated team all season, even though they have not had their big 3 stars, does finally have everyone. We've got about 10, 11 games played over the last couple of weeks with Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker all on the floor together. Phoenix's offense has been wildly efficient, exactly what we expected. All that shooting, all that talent, a really, really fun team, but they've struggled to cover against the spread. And excuse me, I just want to look this up real quick, make sure I get these numbers correct. We look over their last 7 games. They've won 5 of 7 outright, but are 2-4-1 against the spread and 6-18-1 against the spread in their last 25 games. Again, the market continues to rate this Phoenix team high, but there just hasn't been consistency. And as much as they can score more points than most teams, they've struggled to do so, and especially cover the spread, which is really what's important to us as bettors here tonight. The Bulls, without Zach LaVine, what we've seen is a better defensive team. LaVine is a great scorer, but not a good defender. He's also someone that holds on to the ball and is a high-usage player, so that limits the ability of other players to get comfortable and make an impact in the game. You take LaVine off the floor, you bring in Alex Caruso. That is a huge upgrade in defense. Caruso is arguably the best guard defender in the NBA. And from an offensive perspective, Caruso is not a talented attacker. He's not a skilled scorer, but he's a great shooter. Shoots about 40% from 3, does really stretch the floor out. I add all this up, and I really like the Bulls here. Suns are -5. That's too many. I have this closer to about a 2-point game. Could make a case it should be even less, given the matchup advantages of having Caruso on the floor tonight. That gives them one guy that can, pretty much stay in front of Devin Booker, stay in front of Bradley Beal. Again, there'll be more defense on the floor. It's just a better way for the Bulls to play basketball. And they just seem to be a little bit underrated. It's not the best team, but they continue to win games. They continue to cover spreads. Really like the spot for the Bulls tonight. Happy to take them at +5. Again, this number seems pretty stable. Would play +4.5 or maybe a cheap +4 if this does happen to move without any sort of injury information. But again, expecting LaVine to be out, everyone healthy for Phoenix, who again is in a bad rest spot. 3-4 back-to-back, played a handful of games over the last few weeks, and it is a back-to-back in Phoenix. So the home ones aren't quite as bad, but even if I back that adjustment out, again, I still have this a 1-2-point game. So 5 looks really nice. And again, don't mind +4.5, even +4 if you can get it better than standard juice, or standard juice being -110. Let's jump into the rest of the games. Again, we've got 6 matchups, and I just can't bring myself to bet them for various reasons. We'll start with the San Antonio Spurs visiting the Philadelphia 76ers. This might be a classic spot to rest Joel Embiid, but it's a game at home, and Embiid is starting to bump up against the games missed requirements. You have to play 65 games if you want to win the MVP this year, and it's going to be tough and it's going to be close. So Embiid needs to play as much as possible. I expect him to be out there tonight. The Sixers should win this game by a lot, and that's again why they're 14-point favorites. The total is 236.5. I make it 13. Just no real edge here. I think the Sixers do win this game by a lot, but good number by the bookmakers there. No bets for me in Spurs Sixers. The Cavaliers go to play the Orlando Magic. The Magic 2-point underdogs, the total 215.5. Franz Wagner is back, but came back in his first game last night and has to play again tonight. That can be tough for a player coming off any injury, let alone a sprained ankle. I'm so curious to see if maybe he has a minutes limit tonight, or maybe just isn't playing his best basketball. Either way, this should be a fun game. The Cavaliers, without Evan Mobley, without Darius Garland, have found a way to win games and win a lot of them. Again, they have won 12 of their last 15 games. That is just absolutely impressive for a team that's missing two very good players, two players that they were depending on having, that their team was built around. So it's been really great to watch them. I think this is going to be a fun game. My numbers come out pretty close to market here. I lean towards Cleveland again. I don't expect Wagner to be 100%, but the Magic have been good, especially at home. It is overall a young team, which helps in some of these back-to-backs. There isn't really a center on Cleveland, as good as Jared Allen's been, that's going to expose maybe their lack of size at that position. So again, lean sort of towards Cleveland here, but can't discern a big difference, especially with the unknown around Wagner. We'll leave that game alone. The Milwaukee Bucks are in Detroit for the second game in a row. The Pistons are 12-point underdogs. The total is 247. Again, they played on Saturday. The spread closed Milwaukee minus 13 with a total of 245. Went way over the total. We had 276 combined points, and the Pistons covered. Even without Cade Cunningham, they managed to lose the game by only 6. The Bucks have really struggled against the spread this year. It's a really tough team to trust. I do expect at some point that they're going to start playing good basketball, because it has gotten better and better. It just doesn't look smooth yet. The market again adjusted from 13 on Saturday down to 12 now. That makes sense. I have it Bucks minus 11.5. So no real edges here, but I do kind of lean towards the Pistons. This is a game that could get ugly. Again, it's in Detroit. Milwaukee has struggled with blowout teams, so I'm definitely not betting this game. Happy to let this go. The next matchup features two teams that are really tough for me to handicap. The Grizzlies go to Toronto to play the Raptors. The Raptors are 7-point favorites. The total is 225.5. Toronto was really good for a few games after picking up Emmanuel quickly, but since then has traded away Pascal Siakam, which is obviously a huge loss. I mean, it really reduces the overall talent of this Raptors team. He was a big piece, although I do think that at some point Toronto will find a way to play good basketball without him. Siakam's not a great shooter, and if they can find someone to bring into the starting lineup that can stretch the floor for Scotty Barnes, it might possibly even unlock a more interesting version of this team, but we haven't seen it yet. It's been a struggle for them, and I don't know what to expect. We only have a game or two with this roster, so a lot of change. I'm going to have to wait and continue to watch more Raptors games before I bet them. And same thing for the Grizzlies. Without John Morant, they continue to cover numbers, although they lose games. But tonight they're without Desmond Bane. It's just a mess of a team at this point. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a great player, but is not the kind of guy that can carry the rest of this roster to wins, even against teams like Toronto that might not be great. So I make this Raptors minus 5. I just don't know how to make a good number here. I don't have enough data on either team, so I can't really suggest anything in this game. My gut kind of likes the over here, 225.5, but the Grizzlies have struggled so much to score, and without Bane, I don't really know how they do. So just too much murkiness here for me. Going to let this game go. The Charlotte Hornets play the Minnesota Timberwolves. This was really close to a bet. The Timberwolves, up until a few minutes ago, were 13-point favorites. LaMelo Ball was announced to be in, and it just popped up that Anthony Edwards is questionable now with an illness. The market hasn't reopened, but I think what we're going to see is a number closer to Timberwolves minus 10, which is probably right. So I'm going to wait and see how that goes, but I kind of want to find a way to bet the Hornets here. Again, non-conference opponent, Minnesota. It looks like there's already a chance they're going to rest Anthony Edwards. It's just hard for me to see the Timberwolves pushing hard late in this game, and it's going to leave the back door wide open for the Charlotte Hornets to sneak in and get the cover late. I'm just not sure how to attack it. So again, make sure you sign up for FTN, get into that Discord channel. I'm going to find a bet either Hornets in the fourth quarter. Again, maybe if this reopens and it's still Hornets plus 11, plus 12, given the Edwards news, I'll probably bet that. So still trying to figure this out. A lot of moving pieces, But again, part of the reason you have to be in that FTN Bets Discord, you'll get all that stuff when it happens. The final game here, the Atlanta Hawks go to Sacramento. The Kings are 8-point favorites. The total is 237.5. And the Hawks are still the worst team in the NBA against the spread at home, the worst team in the NBA against the spread on the road, the worst team in the NBA against the spread as a favorite, and the worst team in the NBA against the spread as an underdog. They are the worst in all four categories. You're down 20 units if you blindly bet every Hawks closing spread this season. It's just a mess, and the market doesn't know what to do. They've dropped the rating further and further, and the Hawks still continue to not cover. Tonight will be particularly interesting because Trae Young is out. One of the biggest problems the Hawks have is Trae Young is really talented, so is DeJounte Murray, but they're both small guards. It's hard, given the level of talent, how big some of these NBA teams are, to have two small players. It always gives you someone to attack when your opponent is on offense. They can really go after either of those guys. You remove Young, you keep Murray, you only have one small guard to try to hide and protect on defense. He's a pretty solid defender anyway. It just settles things on the team and brings less variance. Young is the type of player that either is really hot or really cold shooting, and that can really make games tough for this team. So I do kind of think the Hawks can cover this number, but I just don't know what to do. The market clearly struggles to assess this team. I do make this, Kings -6.5, almost 7, but just don't think that I have a great number. This Hawks team might be pretty sneaky tonight, so I think it's Hawks or pass, but I'm going to pass. So that's what I think of the 6 games I'm not betting. Again, like the Dallas Mavericks tonight hosting the Celtics, was able to get 3.5 earlier. It's 3 now. If you're watching this and the number's +2 and Kristaps Porzingis is still out, that's a good bet. Things are really on the move. Again, would always be happy to answer any questions you have in that FTN Bets Discord. You can message me there or DM me on Twitter. Let me know kind of how things change here. But this is a great spot for the Mavericks. Again, like them, +2 or better with Porzingis out. Like the -1.5, even -2 if Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum gets rested tonight. Just an awful spot for Boston. And the Chicago Bulls, like them, +5 here, -110, +4.5 is a fine bet, +4 at -105. Really anything less than -110 looks good, but +5's out there everywhere. Seems like a really good number, so make sure you get that. Thanks again. Really appreciate you watching. Again, make sure you subscribe. Would appreciate a like and a comment down below. I'll be back on Friday in video, but again, you can read Hoops with Noops every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday at FTN. I will be back again, like I said, on Friday. You can read me tomorrow. Best of luck until then.